Okay, let me get Instagram going now. It's kind of on a weird angle, but it'll be what it is. Checking my connection. Hi, everybody. It's Dr. Wendy. I'm getting ready to go live with everybody. It's 6 o'clock, 6 o'clock. Let's see who's here. Come on and say hello if you're here. Hello, hello. Okay, the first thing I want to do, let me go over to my StreamYard one right now and get rid of the full screen so you can see me. Hi. And then the banner, I want to talk about what I want to do with this particular live stream. So if you're following me on StreamYard, which streams on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, hello, you're over here on this camera. Instagram, hi, I love you. You're over here on this camera. I have a graphic up on everyone else that says in your comments right now, and I'll tell you why in a minute, I'd like you to post a particular need you have that someone could help you with online, something they could teach you. And I'm stealing this from a colleague of mine, Paul Brunson in London. I was on his live stream a couple weeks ago, and he did this, and people posted all kinds of things. Now, also, if you have a talent that you could share with somebody via Zoom or FaceTime, then post that too. So I posted that I wanted to learn how to use iMovie. And a guy sent me a private message later and said, I'll show you. And he spent like 2 hours on a Zoom with me where I shared my screen and he showed me how to completely edit movies. I'm not that great yet, but he showed me how to edit movies. So that was cool. And then I saw a woman saying that she wanted some tips on public speaking because she was nervous about public speaking. So I said, I'd be happy to help her out. Turns out she's like the consulate general in Jamaica. And we had a great time. She showed me the view out her window. It was quite beautiful. And I gave her a few tips for public speaking. So in your posts right now, in your comments, if you have a need and there's somebody out there in my community who could help you with your need, hey, my friend Andrea Zito wrote on Facebook the other day, she took a picture of her fan from her bathroom and was trying to rewire it and install a new one and didn't know what color wire to put with it. Anyway, someone helped her online. She has a working fan now in her bathroom. Maybe you do graphic design and you'd like to build somebody a new logo. Maybe you know how to sew. Maybe you've got some tips on gardening. Maybe you can help somebody with some of their financial advice, maybe real estate advice. If you have something that you can help people with, then post it on a comment. Now, why am I not seeing my comments? There we go. I have the wrong thing open. And make sure you also, hello, Thomas and Robert and Corn Metallica. And then also post hashtag COVID giving. Now I'm going to tell you why I want to do that on this particular live stream. Tomorrow's my birthday. And I would like that to be my birthday present. Do something for somebody else. It might be somebody that you meet right here in my community, or it might be somebody you know in your world. But if you would like to give me a birthday gift, it would be to do an act of kindness for somebody else tomorrow. Okay. Also, if you have any questions for me on family, relationships, mental health, surviving during COVID, then please post them here and I will be happy to look at them. I don't have my IT department, my 16-year-old with me right now. She's downstairs in her room saying, I'm too busy, Mom. I can't help you. That's what they do. My older daughter, Carrington, who's 21, is decided that she's going to come out of quarantine a seamstress. So she hauled out an old sewing machine. She's ordered patterns and fabric, and she's down there, little sweatshop. I don't know what she's making. It'll be kind of interesting. Okay, so somebody's already posting that if you're on Facebook, that he needs advice on moving out of state with no job placement yet. If anybody's got some career counseling on for him and things that he can do, great, great, great. I want to talk a little bit. I'm going to stay off. By the way, see Instagram. See, this is my favorite sweatshirt. It says, "I'm not for everyone." There, you can see it now on the other live stream. It's my favorite sweatshirt. I can't remember who gave it to me. And the reason why it's my favorite is when you get to a certain age or stage in life, or maybe you've just done the personal growth work and you understand your value and you kind of like yourself, you actually come to a place where you realize that you cannot make everybody happy. Trust me. And if you spend your life running around people pleasing, you're only going to disappoint some, and then that'll disappoint you. So I got to a place where I'm like, you know what? I'm not for everybody, but I'm for some people. And those some people are probably here right now, right? So thank you for tuning in. And before I get into some of your questions and comments, I also want to ask you, I want to talk to you a little bit about happiness and the lifespan. As I mentioned, tomorrow's my birthday. It's a no number birthday. It doesn't matter. We did find a park and garden that is open, and they're letting people in very, judiciously. You need tickets and it's set time, so they let only a few people in at once. So my daughters and I are going to go there for my birthday and have a picnic in the afternoon. And in the morning, I'm going to do not a Zoom party. I've been through a lot of those Zoom meetings, parties where you're sitting around playing games with a bunch of people on a screen. And to be honest, I don't really like to look at screens that much. I mean, I'm here for you, but I don't. Thank you for saying that. Alessandro says, you're kind of a limited edition. That's nice to know. So let me talk a little bit about happiness. So the research has shown that happiness kind of goes in the shape of a U across the lifespan. In other words, if you're lucky enough to have had a great childhood with good parents who could make a secure attachment with you and be attentive to your needs, probably you felt pretty happy as a kid. I know my 16-year-old says, I don't ever want to grow up. This is the happiest time because I kind of spoil her. And then life around the middle gets really stressful. By the way, there's no such thing as a midlife crisis. There's no diagnosis. It's what happens around middle age. There's a lot of thank you for the happy birthday. Someone from Sydney, Australia. Do you watch 9 Network? I love doing my segments on 9 Network. David Campbell. What happens around the middle of our life is we get piled on with a whole bunch of stressors. Those are, obviously mortgages. We're the sandwich generation. We're taking care of little kids. We're taking care of older people. Career gets very, very stressful. We tend to be the big providers and protectors in middle age. And so happiness actually starts to go down. That's also when divorces are highest. By the way, that divorce rate that you always hear, that number that our divorce rate is 50%, is not really true, actually. It's based on how many years you've been together. So if you've been together and married 5 years, you have like a 75% chance of staying together for life. If you've been married 10 years, about a 65% chance. But if you've been married 20 years, that's when it goes up to 50%. And why would that be? Let's think about it. Well, obviously the big work of the marriage has been done and you forgot to repurpose it. So the kids have been raised, the career has happened, etc. So that's why you will hear these midlife crisis divorces. But remember, our life expectancy has continued to go on and get longer and longer and longer. And we have always been a species of kind of serial monogamy. In other words, when till death do us part was invented, death was pretty imminent, right? Here's an interesting statistic before I get back to midlife crisis. And someone from Greece is here too. Hi, what time is it there? Anyway, people from, this is what I love about live streams. I always see people from all over the world. If you are from, or wherever you're from, let me know. Just post your city on there because it's fun to see them going by. What was I just saying? I was talking midlife crisis, happiness. I was talking about getting divorced, 50% at 20 years. Oh, here's an interesting statistic. So if you got married in the year 1900 and you stood at an altar and professed that you would stay together until death do us part, do you know how many years that marriage lasted on average? 12. You know why? People were dying a lot. Pandemics, wars, a hard life, right? So if you got married in 1990, 100 years later or 90 years later, and you also professed, we will stay together until death do us part, what do you think the average length of your marriage was? 12 years, right? But now we're splitting up because of divorce instead of death. Hopefully we're not killing each other. Did anybody ever see me on that show I did for years called Happily Never After on ID Network? It's about brides and grooms that killed themselves or killed each other, or one killed the other. And I was looking for the red flags in their relationship. And I'm always like, you know what? When you elope alone in Vegas and your family doesn't support you, this is not a good sign. Also, if he takes out a big insurance policy on your life right before you get married, not a good sign. Anyway, so back to the midlife crisis for a minute. So there's no such thing as a midlife crisis, but around halfway through life, there are a lot of stressors. But here's the good news. That U-shape comes back up again, and happiness starts to increase as we get into our 50s and beyond. And so I have a birthday coming up tomorrow. As I said, it is 50 something, and I am happier than I've been in a really long time. I can honestly say the most stressful time of my life, and I'm sure if you have small kids in the house, you're experiencing it, is, someone from Redlands. Hi, Redlands. Hi, Linda. Is raising small kids. Those were like the hardest years. And people always say it was the happiest. Well, when I see people with small kids and I'm looking from afar, I always go, oh, I miss my babies. I miss having little kids, right? But what I miss are those moments when they're clean and fed and dressed and they just want to cuddle you and say, mommy, mommy, mommy. That's 5% of the day, right? The rest of the time, it's screaming and squawking and trying to get them places they don't want to go, going to school, making them do homework, making them do stuff they don't want to do. And just behavioral shaping is really tough, especially with little kids. So that was the hardest time. But now I'm into the happiest stage of my life. So is anybody in a time zone where it's already April 30th? Of course, you Europeans. Oh, from Scotland. Hi, from Glasgow. So it's already my birthday. So you can literally say happy birthday if you're in Europe, and people in Asia can say happy birthday to me. The rest of you have to wait till midnight tonight. It's 6 o'clock here Pacific time. I'm in Los Angeles, and a lot of my friends are also on the East Coast. Okay, does anybody have, because I can ramble for hours and hours. You know, I do a 2-hour radio show every Sunday from 4 to 6 Pacific. No matter where you are, there's someone from Phoenix. Hi, you can get it on the iHeart Radio app. But I also teach at a university where I have to do like 3-hour lectures. So you just wind me up and I can go on any topic. Thank you for the happy birthday. Oh, thank you for the nice compliment. Someone called me smoking hot. You know, at a certain age, you like want that. It's like, come on, bring it on. I can handle it. So if you have any questions about relationships, about your mental health, about family dynamics during quarantine, then bring them on, and hopefully I will see them because I'm watching your comments on the live stream. But let me then simply talk about what we're going through here, so everyone can understand that you're feeling whatever you're going through is very, very normal. We know that human beings are wired to connect. I mean, the reason why we took over the planet is we're the species with not only brains that adapt well to changing environments, but because we have cooperative brains, right? I don't know, was I telling you last week this study about the baby chimpanzee and the baby human? It's one of my favorite studies. So they took like a 2-year-old human and they took a 2-year-old chimpanzee whose intelligence levels are pretty close, actually. And they had them problem solve something, and they had an adult assisting them. And then the adult stepped away and went blank and refused to help anymore. And the baby chimpanzee kept doing the same thing over and over and over, but not the baby human. What do you think the baby human did? Instead of trying to solve the problem and figure it out on their own, they spent the entire time crying and whining and imploring the adult to help. Because we naturally are cooperative species and work as many one brains. So when we're alone and when we're isolated like this, we start to have mental health issues. Everybody. I don't know about you, but have you ordered something online and had to punch in your address and actually punched in your own address? I've done it twice. I've done it. It's craziness. I was off by 1 digit. And interesting enough, the number I was giving was the number of my best friend's house. So I think that's sort of like me, like wanting to have that warm connection with her. Anyway, 2 things got returned. And 1 thing was from work. Apparently we need some special emergency pass in case, because we're essential workers and we have to communicate the news and everything that's going on. So if we need to get into the building, we need to do that. So anyway, that's an example of cognitive impairment. Have you had an ongoing to-do list where you haven't been able to get anything done? Yeah, that's very, very normal when you're feeling stressed. Have you felt disorganized in your day, sleeping at weird hours, waking up? I know, like I used to be such a scheduled sleeper. Just, hint, if you're ever planning on living with me in the future, the house goes dark at 10 p.m. I could never live with a night owl, although I have twice in my life. But 10 p.m., I'm dead out and I'm up at 5:30 or 6. That was my schedule. These days, I'm all over the map, I mean, the other night, I watched the movie Kinsey. I hadn't seen it in many years, on the story of the biopic on Alfred Kinsey Institute. Anyway, and it was done in 2004, so I hadn't remembered much of it. And it was a very good movie, but it ended at 2:30 in the morning. And then I started scrolling through the New York Times and through social media. So anyway, South Lake Tahoe. Hello, what a nice place to be right now. Anyway, so this is what's happening with our sleep. And then I still woke up early the next morning. So I sort of, with my cognitive impairment, walked through the day on about 4 hours sleep. Like it was a very weird day, but I didn't necessarily go to bed early the next day. Also, I want to talk to you a little bit about how much alcohol we've been drinking. I put the we in there. Okay, I'm going to be honest. I was eating so clean before quarantine that most of you probably heard me complaining on my radio show that I couldn't even take a glass of wine anymore. It would just give me such a headache. So I switched to clear white, clean burning Blanco tequila. And I could get through, an ounce or two of that mixed with soda water and a little lime. And then quarantine happened. And I started having one. And then some nights I would have two hard liquor, me, who used to eat so clean. Well, let me tell you, we are 6 weeks into it. And I say, never have wine. It gives me a headache, too much sugar. Last night I had 2 glasses of red wine with my meal and no headache, nothing, slept fine, which means I've built up a tolerance. This is not good. Okay, this is not a good sign. So here's what I want to say about, someone from Texas. Hi. So here's what I want to say about drinking and quarantine. Anytime we try to break a habit, if we try to break a habit by having a lot of negative self-talk in our head, like we're bad and we can't quit. By the way, alcohol, takes 24 hours to get completely out of your system. So that's why you start to, around the same time the next night, start to think about it again. People who change their habits do it best instead of focusing on what they need to do. They focus instead on the obstacles. They literally say, what are the cues to this behavior? What are the triggers? For me, it's always cooking dinner. As soon as I start to cook dinner, I'm like, I should pour myself a drink. Now, one of the things my daughter and I started to do, because I think it's just a healthy thing to do, is we drink a large, do I have a glass here on the table? No, I don't. At least 16-ounce glass of ice water before we ever drink any alcohol. And we also only drink if we're eating food at the same time. So this slows its work through your system. It dilutes it. It's good. Okay. But the other thing is, like, if I were to decide I am not going to drink, I would start at 8 a.m. planning how and what I would cook for dinner and what time, and what drink I would pour myself in lieu of an alcoholic drink. That's called being aware of the obstacle and the trigger and making another plan ahead of time. And I might even do something like, let's say I was just going to have soda water with lime without the tequila. I would visually move the tequila out so that trigger wasn't there. I would set a glass on the bar with a can of soda water beside it or some lime or something, so that it would be the new cue or the new trigger, so that when the time would come. I also could set an alarm that would say, go pour your soda water and lime right now. There are all kinds of things we can do to change habits. So No, someone's asking me if I'm a GP. No, I have a PhD in clinical psychology, and I'm a professor of health psychology at California State University, Channel Islands. So what we look at when we look at health psychology is a biopsychosocial model of health. So what does that mean? It means that our thoughts and our psychology can impact our health, impact our body biologically. We also know that certain people have a genetic predisposition to certain diseases. And so we also teach about prevention, lifestyle factors, and also social. So here's what we know is that health habits, both positive and negative, are highly contagious within social groups. And not only that, that our social relationships can cause a great deal of stress. And the stress is the thing that can impact our immune function and illness and disease, right? And during this time, maybe there's a few lucky ones of you who did not sort of inherit the genes, the neurochemistry to feel a lot of stress. Some people are chilling with this. I don't know, maybe they're just wealthy and sitting by their swimming pool. I don't know, but the rest of the people are terrified about health risks of COVID or financial ruin, what's going to happen with the economy, and just missing all the contact with people. We realize how important that is. But for the rest of us, we should be using some good stress coping strategies because we're all under a great deal of stress. I promise you, all of your cortisol levels have gone up. All of your inflammation has gone up. And sort of crazy, like here we are worried about a health threat. And at the same time, it's counterintuitive, but we're doing things and having thoughts that can make our immune system function not quite as well. So what are the things that we should be doing? Well, the very first thing is we need to, I'm here to kind of pull you off the guilt train and say, it's okay to be in your pajamas all day. It is okay to not get through that to-do list. It's okay to make cognitive mistakes. What about the typing, right? On the computer, are you making way more typos than you've ever in your life? This is all part of the cognitive impairment that can come with low-grade depression, which I think many of us are suffering from, if not most of us right now. So the first thing is it doesn't help to, if we're not doing things that are the best for us, it doesn't help for us to also beat ourselves up internally. We need to work on forgiving ourselves a little bit. Someone wrote to me a week or two ago and she was saying, I feel like I'm failing quarantine, like I'm not doing quarantine well. And there's no way to do quarantine right. It's hard. We never expected this in our lifetime. The more and more I read about the 1918 pandemic, though, I'm like, wow, it's like history totally repeats itself. I think I posted on Facebook today or yesterday. There's a good question. Hi, do you think people are happier when they have a partner? Depends who the people are. Some people who have a kind of avoidant attachment style are actually, their stress levels go up when they have too much intimacy or somebody who's chasing them down a lot. And why do most people seem to prefer to think more emotionally? Are people always happier in a relationship? Here's what we do know about our health is that people in long-term committed relationships live longer, they have better mental health, they have better physical health, and they accumulate more wealth. However, that's also a group that's kind of self-selected, meaning happy people are more likely to have healthy long-term relationships. So unfortunately, people who have suffered a lot of childhood trauma struggle with having safe, healthy relationships, right? So there are people who have an attachment style where they are kind of avoidant. They're afraid of intimacy. Intimacy raises their stress levels. And then there are other people who have a lot of anxiety around relationships. They're vigilantly watching for threats of abandonment. And it's so funny because it's always like the anxious person who meets the avoidant person, and it becomes the match made in heaven for them, meaning that is they're doing what I call an unconscious handshake, right? They're cool. You gonna treat me like the abandoning daddy I had? Great. You treat me like the stubborn, suffocating mother I had? Wonderful. And it's on. And so usually if somebody fires you up sexually so much, too hot to handle right at the beginning, if you've had relationship struggles in the past, this should be a sign. This should be a sign that you are walking right back into the same old fire. You know, until we actually learn our own attachment style and what kinds of things trigger our attachment behaviors, we are going to continue to date and marry the same person over and over and over again in our lives. They will drive a different car and wear a different shirt, but they will have the same unconscious attachment dynamics. Okay, so I thought you were supposed to be on the radio right now. I am supposed to be on the radio on Sundays, every Sunday from 4 to 6 Pacific time. And wherever you are in the world, you can figure out your time zone. You can listen to that on the iHeart Radio app. I actually interviewed a woman who works at an assisted living facility, and she gave me some really good tips I want to talk about, because so many people have parents that they can't see right now, and they're just worried sick about their safety. And I've had people say to me, I'm afraid that I'll never see my mom alive again, and it's so scary. Anyway, so this woman who works at an assisted living facility gave me a whole bunch of tips about how to talk to the staff, how to treat the staff, what you can be doing for your elderly parent who may be quarantined inside an assisted living facility, because we know how dangerous it is. Okay, any more questions? Any more posts? What else we got here? Anybody? What I talk about? I talked about happiness. I talked about that for a birthday present tomorrow. I want all my birthdays tomorrow. I want everybody to do a random act of kindness for somebody, and send me a post somewhere on social media. Tell me what you did. I'm really curious to hear. And someone's asking me, what will there be a coronavirus legal helpline commercial? Oh, yeah. So some of you know me because I work for Consumer Attorney Marketing Group, which is a beautiful PR agency that helps connect law firms with those people who could never afford the kind of attorneys and protect them from predatory corporations. Sadly, yes, I have recorded some commercials saying, you know, has your workplace forced you to go into work, have not given you protective equipment? Have they, did you come down with COVID as a result of them not providing a safe environment? I think the big thing is, how are we going to all come back to work in a safe manner? And are we going to have to sign disclaimers? I know a friend of mine is working on an air quality monitor for gyms, right? Because it's going to be enough to, it's not going to be enough to just space the treadmills far apart and maybe put plexiglass in between. Everybody's still sharing all the same air around, right? So he's designing this thing that can tell you the particle level in the air, which would make me feel a lot better. He also said when we go to gyms, they're probably going to have to take our temperature with that thing that you see on the news all the time, and maybe in every workplace. And I think that masks are going to be de rigueur for a very long time. We are going to have to wear masks. I was thinking of sewing some fashionable ones because I'm online and they're not, the delivery is so far away. And for those of you who have seen pictures of me in an N95 mask that, you know, is supposed to be saved for the healthcare industry, long before quarantine, someone I know who works in the healthcare industry gave it to me as a gift. And I keep disinfecting the same one. It's supposed to be single use, right? And I've been using it for weeks and weeks and weeks. I put it in the oven. You can put it in the oven 170 degrees for 30 minutes. And okay, somebody else has a question. They're going to post it. Post it. I want to see your question. They say, I have a question. I'm like, well, where is it? Bring the question on. If you have a question, I'm happy to answer it. Alrighty, most of you are just on Instagram, you're waving, which is great. Send me a bunch of hearts for my birthday. I love seeing those hearts scoot up. Makes me feel good. I can't believe my birthday's tomorrow and we're quarantined. I know we've all missed so many things. We've missed we'll be missing graduations. My daughter's supposed to graduate. And I'm seeing texts come in on top of the screen. Excuse me, because it's my daughter's teacher. Thank you for the hearts. And she wants to know, Jonesy, I'm still on my live stream. But Miss Masler is texting me asking if you handed in your yoga assignment. Can you please text her back and tell her? Because she wants to go off the clock. She's finished teaching for the day. Okay, so that person who said they were going to put a question didn't write the question, but that says Pat can't post comments to some destinations. I got to learn more about this StreamYard. Look what I have learned about StreamYard, you guys. I can go in here and change the banner and change the branding to my podcast. If you have not listened to, that's another thing you can do for me for my birthday, is listen to any episodes of Mating Matters podcast. And if you're new to Mating Matters podcast, would you do me a favor? Like when you log on, it gives you the most recent first. But the thing about listening to podcasts is we assume that our listeners build up knowledge, right? So go to the very beginning, listen to the very first episode. Thank you for the hearts for my happy birthday. I really appreciate it. And listen to Mating Matters and start at the very beginning and then follow it along. And the first episode is called Hidden Eggs. And it's about why we're the only primate species that has concealed fertility, which means 3 days in the month where a guy can't tell if she could get pregnant, and she might not even know. So the time of ovulation, of course. And so we have evolved actually ways that guys can tell. And if you listen to the whole episode, you'll hear that strippers make more money when they're ovulating. They didn't know it, but you know, some poor researchers had to spend a lot of time in strip clubs so they could collect that data. Then the next episode, I think, is called The Trouble with Testosterone. There really isn't a trouble with testosterone, but all the ways why we've evolved to have high testosterone men, low testosterone men, and everything in between. And how do you tell if a guy has high testosterone? Well, you're going to look at his hand. You'll have to listen to the episode to figure. It's something to do with finger length. I'm not going to give it away, but I will say this, ladies, I know we love those high testosterone men, at least to have sex with, don't we? Athletes, actors, if they're tall, if they have muscles, if they have deep voice, they're supposed to be sexually attractive to most women. But did you know that they have such high testosterone that when they have sex, it blunts the effect of oxytocin, the bonding hormone. So they have trouble falling in love, and they actually have harder relationships. And I'm also going to tell you the two things that can happen in this life that can make a high testosterone guy be able to be monogamous, because most of them aren't. Sorry, it's just the truth. I just tell the truth. See, I'm not for everyone. I just tell the truth. And why sometimes a low testosterone guy isn't really a low testosterone. He's more normal. Depends who you compare it with, right? And how they're more nurturing. I also have an episode called Survival of the Gayest, why we evolved to have gay brothers and sisters and why we need them. And a great one on the God Who clubs, how every religion makes rules around dating, mating, and relating to increase their membership. There's a couple episodes called Mothers, MILFs, and Wives about women's reproductive choices and how females compete for mates. That episode is called Mean Girls, Gold Diggers, and Sluts. So if you haven't listened to my podcast, Mating Matters, then that would be a nice birthday present for me. All right, so let me go back to the comments to see if anybody's posted any questions. Oh, Dana's there. Hi, Dana. Hi, Dana. Hi, Dana. I have a dear friend in New York City. Oh, stay safe. Stay safe. I'm so worried about you. Dana has the couch I sleep on whenever I'm in New York. Literally, I used to fly to New York regularly to appear on various shows. And one time I was going to and the shows would say, oh, I have a hotel for you. And I'd be, no, I have a friend. And so I would always go and sleep at Dana's apartment on her sofa so that we could have the late night cup of tea and talk. And one time she said to me, look, if they're offering you these fine hotels, why don't we just take the sleepover party to the hotel? I'll sleep there with you. We can have our tea party and be sitting in the lap of luxury. I thought, what a dummy I am. Of course. Someone asked me how you can boost testosterone. Exercise. Don't drink so much and exercise more. Yeah. And also, you know what boosts men's testosterone? That guy, ladies, this is why they watch sports so much. They actually get sort of cathartically a win. When their team wins, their testosterone does go up a little bit. So exercise helps raise a man's testosterone, obviously drinking less alcohol. And psychologically, ladies, you can actually raise your guy's testosterone by complimenting him more. When guys have a win and feel strong, I always say, if you want a king, you better act like a queen and treat your king great because it raises their testosterone. How about Richard Gere, 70 years old and just had another child? I did not know that. Well, there's a high rate of autism, not saying about his kid. We used to always look at old eggs as the problem with fertility or developmental disabilities. And now we're really realizing that fathers over the age of 40 also contribute to, does junk food affect testosterone? Junk food affects your whole biology, everything that you're doing. I mean, junk food is what? It's sugar. It teaches your body, whether it's starch that turns into glucose, it teaches your body to run on glucose, and then you're running on sugar, and it's not good for you. And somebody said they loved me. Thank you, Artie806. That's very kind of you. The Instagram crowd are waving and sending hearts, but not sending any questions. So you can send a question if you like. I was talking about something and I lost my train of thought. Oh, well, it'll come back. It happens to me sometimes even when I'm teaching, never with radio. You know what I do to get through my radio shows? I have like a few little bullet points. Yes, I did miss your question. It says, hi, you missed my question. Let me try to go back. See if I can find a question that I missed. This isn't your question, it's someone else's, but I'm going to scroll back and see. But let me answer Carrie. Tips on how to deal with a partner who tends to see the negative side of things more often than not. Well, first of all, you're going to have to work hard to not take it in. You can't convince them. You know, if somebody, the research has shown actually that pessimists are actually more logical, concrete, and realistic. And they will always say, if we have a friend that's a pessimist, they'll say, I'm not being a pessimist, I'm a realist. But the research shows that those of us who have more positive illusions about life actually have lower stress, better health, better immune function, and do better in stressful situations. So I'm sure that you're worried that your partner is bringing you down in a way because of the negativity. So it's about you having to self-regulate and not bring it all in. You are never going to convince them to think like you unless they choose to. I mean, it is possible. It is really, really possible to practice positive psychology, to grow some resilience, to grow some hardiness. It's very, very possible, but you have to want to do it. So if you have a partner, you can't run around all day saying, you know, cheer up, see things positively. You just need to see things positively yourself. Okay, going back, looking for that question that he said I missed. Does putting a mask in the microwave for a few seconds sterilize it? I read a whole article on sterilizing masks, and it did say 170 degrees in a regular oven for 30 minutes was the way to go. Here's your question. Is it good to spend your whole life with a person who is only concerned with her own success? Well, maybe you're living with a narcissist. You know, here's the thing. Relationships are about compromise. But what two people can accomplish together, two brains, two incomes, is so much greater than any single person can accomplish alone. Now, I've been single for 15 years because I got 2 kids to raise. And to be completely honest with you, I was raising little girls. I read terrible statistics about pedophiles, you know, courting single moms so they could get access to kids, and that kids raised in a home with a non-biologically related male had higher the rates of abuse, not just sexual abuse, like physical abuse, mental abuse. And I just did not want to expose, I know there are great guys out there and we could have created a blended family, but I didn't want to expose my kids to a romantic mistake I might ever make. I wanted to just put them first and give them the most expensive thing I had, which was my time. So we lived in small places for a while. At one point during the Great Recession, we lived in a studio apartment, not a 1-bedroom, a 1-room apartment for a year. But I just wanted to have them be successful. Okay, let me see what else I've missed with questions here. Is visiting a psychoanalyst always beneficial? Let me say this. Oh, well, she will turn, by the way, that question about a narcissist, narcissists are very manipulative and they're very good at turning it on the other person and making them feel bad about themselves. Um, oh, I do want to address this one thing. Someone said, you're single. I don't believe it. You're a good looking woman. Like somehow my value on the shelf means that somebody hasn't bought me. No, 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 no. I don't think you understand. Women do the choosing. We have the eggs. They're just sitting here waiting. Sperm chases egg, not the reverse. And eggs do the choosing at the most basic biological level. And so I have chosen to be single because I have not met anybody who could make my life any better than it is already. I have such a great life. As my 16-year-old said to me, she goes, Mom, you're a truly free woman. I work very hard. I have 4 jobs. I've raised my 2 daughters. They're age 16 and 21. And I will probably have a kick-ass retirement relationship or something. I'm never going to retire. I learned about quarantine. I'm never going to retire. I'm going to work until the day I die. Once I get out of this quarantine, I'm back at it. But I am going to have a fabulous relationship once I'm finished the work of getting my last one through high school. Someone says, I have 7 men in my life who profess their love to me. All of them are married. What am I doing wrong? You're talking to too many married men. That's all. You need to have boundaries up. You need to clearly let them know, like, do not. Just why, right? There's so many single men out there. Why mess with a married man? Okay, so the question somebody asked me, is visiting a psychoanalyst always beneficial? Let me say this. At any stage of the lifespan, we can improve our mental health. We can improve our relationship skills. We can improve the most important relationship in the world, our relationship with ourself, listening to those voices in our head. I don't mean hearing voices. I just mean our negative self-talk, if you will. I also want people to understand that he used the word, or she, psychoanalyst. And a lot of people don't understand all the differences between mental health professionals. So why don't I break it down for you so you know what you're calling and who you're calling. So here in the state of California, we have a number of different licensures. Someone would say at the top, I'll start at the top based on years of education. You would have a medical doctor called a psychiatrist. Now, in these times, very few medical doctors practice talk therapy. They can make more money seeing you for 30 minutes or less and writing you a prescription and seeing you over and over to just write scripts, because they are medical doctors. And even when I was practicing and had a clinical practice, if anybody needed medication, I would refer them to a psychiatrist for meds. Okay, but some of them still do talk therapy and they're analysts, which is really cool. Then there are psychologists. Psychologists have a PhD in clinical psychology, and they are licensed by the Board of Psychology, and every state has their own Board of Psychology. What sets psychologists apart from every other mental health professional, many of them just do regular therapy, individual, family, kid, etc. But we're also trained in testing. So we would test for, administer tests for depression or learning disabilities or developmental disabilities, autism, etc. You would go to a psychologist for that. Then there are marriage and family therapists. Marriage and family therapists only have, I don't want to say only, they have a master's degree in psychology, but they have far more hours of clinical training to get their license because they're all about practicing. So a marriage and family therapist may do individuals, may do couples, may do kids. I am smelling like my bolognese sauce is burning. Hang on, I got to turn my bolognese sauce off. Oh no. Okay. I don't think it's burnt. I just turned it off. I had let it simmer because, a good bolognese sauce has to take its time and simmer. Okay, marriage and family therapists. And then there are also like spiritual counselors and religious counselors, and some of them have different kinds of certificates. And then there's a whole new world of coaches out there, mental health coaches. What I want to say to you is this. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter what degree your therapist has. It's nice if they're licensed, but it's the relationship that heals. If you feel comfortable with somebody, then you're going to trust them and you're going to get some level of healing. So I do want to say that. Okay, should I go now? The married man, I just want to see if there are any other big questions. I think those are the biggest ones. Okay, I'm going to go eat dinner because I got my kids to feed, and tomorrow's my birthday. You know what I'm doing? Don't laugh. I'm going to spend the evening. I love 100% fine French linen sheets, and I have 2 sets. And so I am going to, and I iron them. I know I'm weird. So I am going to spend the evening making my bed fabulous because I want to wake up tomorrow on my birthday with like clean, fluffy sheets in bed. And I'm going to do a Zoom coffee with friends from 8 a.m. till 9:30. If you're my close friend, you got the email. And people can pop in for 5 minutes here or there. I'm going to literally sit here in my dining room. I'm sitting at my dining room table right now, by the way. And I'm going to have a cup of coffee with friends and family from all over the world. So thank you for tuning in. And it's always my pleasure to be here at 6 p.m. Pacific every Wednesday live streaming. If you have any particular questions, you can always post them ahead of time and I'll read all the comments so I know what topics. I want to keep my ear to the ground. Thank you for all the well wishes for my birthday. It's nice to not be alone. Anyway, I love you guys, and it really, really, really means a lot. I read all your comments, and we're all going to get through this together, this little quarantine thing. Maybe I'll keep this up forever, too. That could be kind of fun. All right, bye. Now, how do I turn it off? That's always the hard part. Oh, end. Who knew? End live video. And what do I do over here? End broadcast. Bye.